Welcome to Using and Organizing Google Drive. In this session, you'll learn how to access Google Drive and be able to use the major sections of Drive to create, upload, locate, and prioritize files and folders, understand and practice navigating through Drive, changing views, and organizing items using folders, subfolders, workspaces, color coding, and starring items, understand the sharing permissions of files and folders in Drive, and apply tips and suggestions to better organize and build proficiency with Google Drive. The URL for Drive is drive.google.com, but you could also access Google Drive from a Google page by going to the waffle in the upper right and then selecting Drive. It's important to make sure that you are accessing the intended drive. You can verify this by clicking on the image or initial in the upper right and checking to see that the account that is signed in is the account you intend to use. Now let's take a look at how Drive is laid out. In the upper left, you have a clickable logo. This can be very helpful to get you back to the home page of Drive. Underneath that, we have the New button, and this is where we'll be able to create and upload files and folders. Beneath that are some of the organizational structures of Drive. In the top of the middle section, you have a search bar along with an advanced search option. And then this large section here is divided amongst our quick access area, which is where we can find recently used items, and then our files and folders are down below. Before we take a closer look at each of those sections, notice that you can toggle the view of Drive between List View, which I'm currently in, and that lists the files and folders, and Grid View, which will show you the thumbnails of the files and folders. So we have List View and Grid View. I'm going to keep it in List View for now. Looking at the organizational structures, we'll begin with Priority. Priority will show recently used files. Sometimes it even will recognize that you open a certain file on a certain day or time of the week, and that may also appear up here. And then beneath that will be workspaces that you're able to create. And we'll go over that in more detail in a little bit. Next up is My Drive. My Drive is the home to the files and folders that you create or upload. And notice that you have this little arrow on the left side. Clicking on that will allow you to expand that drive so that you can see your subfolders. And if I were to click on one of the subfolders, you can see this folder has another folder, and inside of that folder is just this one document. Notice also you have this directory here that shows that I'm inside my drive, inside the Demo4PD folder, inside the subfolder Demo4PD, and I'm looking at this example doc. I can close all these back up and return right back to my drive. And as I said before, if you get lost, you can just click on Drive in the upper left and it'll bring you back to your home page. Next, we'll take a look at Shared with Me. The Shared with Me section contains the files and folders that have been shared with you, and it can be a very deep, dark hole. It's difficult to organize, and it can be overwhelming when you visit it. One thing that you can do in the Shared with Me section is add a shortcut to the things that have been shared with you inside of your normal drive. So take a look at this. I have a file that's been shared with me, and I can right click on it and then add the shortcut to Drive. And at this point, I can make a shortcut to that in whichever folder of my drive I want. So in this case, we'll go inside of Demo4PD and my subfolder of Demo4PD, and I'll click Add Shortcut. So now this file that's been shared with me is accessible in my drive inside of Demo4PD, inside that subfolder, and it's right here. And that's an easy way to take the important files that are in your Shared with Me section and then move them to a folder that will make it easy for you to access and that you feel fits your organizational scheme. Another idea is that you could right-click on a file and then you could add it to starred. Doing this will put it in your starred section of your drive, and we'll be going over that in just a moment. Next up is the recent section. The recent section is where your recently used files will appear. Notice once again I have them in list view, but if I wanted to, I could toggle that into grid view. Grid view is nice because you can see the thumbnails. List view gives you additional information about the files. Next up is starred, and in the starred section you will find the folders and files that you have starred. Now remember, starring an item was a matter of right-clicking on it and then choosing to add to starred. Next up is trash, and in the trash section you will find the items that you have removed from your drive, and then if you want to permanently delete them, you can right-click on them and delete them forever. You could also choose to restore them to their original location if you would like, and it's important to note that items in trash will be deleted forever after 30 days. Before we create some files and folders, let's take a look at the search bar. Notice that if I start to type in something that I'm searching for, before I can even finish typing, it will come up with a result. But this search bar goes far beyond that. If I click on this search options, I'm able to search by a particular file type. I could choose to search by the owner or in a particular location. I could also search by a date range, which I could customize. And you can see some of the other filters and options as well. It is a very powerful search inside of your drive, and it's often underutilized, and it can be very helpful in finding documents and folders. Let's take a moment to practice. At this point, you may wish to pause the video and try locating the following items in your drive using an advanced search. Let's take a look at what we can create using the New button. After clicking on New, you get the following menu, and you are able to create a new folder. You can upload a file or upload an entire folder, and that would include any subfolders that exist within that folder. You can create new docs, sheets, slides, Google Forms. Notice that these have arrows next to them, and the arrows will let you either choose from starting from a blank document or from a template, which can be very helpful. Then you have this More option, and you will see some more options down below, such as Google Drawings, Google My Maps, Google Sites. You may see Apps Script, Google Jamboard. You may also see Nearpod. And if you've connected any other apps, you would see them here. Right now, we are going to create a new folder. After clicking on New Folder, it prompts me to give the folder a name. Once I've given it a name, it will appear highlighted in my list of folders. Now, because I have it on list view, it is showing my list alphabetical at the moment. I can reverse so that it's reverse alphabetical, or I can bring it back. Notice how this folder with an emoji rises to the top. So emojis would be at the top of an alphabetical list. And I'll show you more on that in just a moment. So let's go inside the Demo for Vid folder. And you'll notice I'm in my drive inside the Demo for Vid folder. And if I create a new folder, so I click on New and then Folder, and it prompts me to give it a name. And when I click on Create, you'll notice that I now have a subfolder for Vid that's inside of this Demo for Vid. And I could create another subfolder by following the same exact process. Simply go to New, and then Folder. And for this example, I'll get a little fancier, and we'll add an emoji. So to add an emoji, I'm using emojipedia.org, but there are other places, and I've searched for school. And you'll see this is the icon or the emoji for school. So I'm going to click on Copy. I'm going to come back to my folder and just paste using Control V, and then I will type in my subfolder's name and click Create. Now that I have these folders and subfolders, there are a couple of things I might want to do. For example, I could right-click on a subfolder and give that subfolder a color. So if I go to Change Color, I'm able to give that folder a color. I might also choose to right-click on that subfolder and add it to Starred. And as you previously saw, adding it to Starred will bring it to the Starred section of my Google Drive. You may also notice that adding a folder to the Starred section will put a star next to it in the folder which it actually exists. Next, let's take a look at an easy way to upload or create a file inside of a folder. For this example, we will create the document inside of this subfolder, but before doing that, I'm going to come back to the home page of Drive to remind you of how to navigate to that area. I know that it exists inside my drive, so I'm going to use this arrow to expand my drive. And I know that it's inside my Demo for Vid folder. And now here are my two subfolders. So I'm going to click on Subfolder for Vid, and I'm going to verify that I'm where I want to be, which this is correct. I'm inside of my drive, inside Demo for Vid, inside the subfolder for Vid. And at this point, I want to create a new doc, and I'm going to do it from a blank document. But notice I could have also selected File Upload, Folder Upload, or created any of the other options. But in this case, we're going to do it with a doc. Now when the doc opens, a good practice is to give that doc a name. So I've given it a name, and I've typed a little something inside the body of the doc itself so that it will actually save it. When I close out of this and come back, you'll see that my file is sitting inside of my folder now. And I selected that folder because that folder also was starred. So if I click on starred, notice how I can access that folder as well as its contents. That's how you would add a Docker folder to another folder. There is a major advantage for doing it this way over going to docs.google.com or slides.google.com, which these URLs are the same as going to the waffle and then choosing docs or slides in those two examples, or sheets, where we're going to come to a page that looks like this. And what these pages do are basically filter your drive for just that particular app. So in this case, these are all of the files that exist in this drive that are slides files. And then these would be all of the docs files. The challenge here is when you start a new document, it's just going to put it in your drive in a generic location, just literally in your drive, where when you create new docs and sheets and slides and forms inside of Drive, you can create them from the place that you want to store them in. And that is hugely helpful when it comes to organizing your drive. So once again, if I want to create a file inside of a particular folder, I can go to that folder first, then create new doc or whatever it might be, and it will store it inside that folder for me already. Whereas if I go to one of these apps here, all that it's going to do is let me create a new doc and it will exist in my drive, but it's not putting it in the folder where I want it. You can move it once it's created, but I found a really good practice is to get in the habit of creating the files where you want them stored. Let's practice that. At this point, you may wish to pause the video and practice creating files and folders in your drive. Next, we'll take a look at the priority workspaces. So under the New button is the word Priority, which will take you to the Priority section. At the top, you'll see your recently used files, and then underneath you have the ability to create new workspaces. Now these workspaces can contain up to 25 files, and they can be very helpful for things like attending meetings. And if you will have a particular set of documents that you find you use frequently at that meeting or for another purpose, then you may want to create a workspace. So all you have to do is click Create, give your workspace a title, and then click Create. Next, you'll want to add files to your workspace by clicking Add Files, and then choosing the files you'd like to add. And you could choose from Recent, My Drive, Shared with Me. You can search your drive as well. So I'm just going to pick a couple. So I'm going to hold down Control as I select multiple items and then click Insert. You can always come back and add more files later. For right now, I'm going to click Done. Now it's important to know that it does not actually move your files to a new space. The files still exist where they existed before. This is simply creating a shortcut to those files to make it easier for you to access. So when you're on your drive, you switch to Priority and then simply double click on the file you wish to open. The My Drive section is the section of Drive in which the files and folders you have created or upload exist, and also any folders that have been shared with you that you've used the Add Shortcut to Drive function to add it to your drive will be there as well. You can expand your drive by clicking on the little arrow in front of it, and it will show you all of the folders in your drive. And you can go to the subfolders if you want by clicking on those arrows, and it will show you where you are. And if you want to go inside of one of the folders, simply click on it. And you can always verify that you're in the right spot by looking at the directory at the top. One other thing I would like to point out is that the folders themselves, if you see a little person icon like we do here, that means this is a shared folder. So the contents of this folder are being shared with others. We'll discuss that further a little later in the video. Now let's take a look at some additional menus and functions in Drive. You may have noticed that when I click on a file or folder, I will get additional menu options up here in the right side, the upper right side. So if I click, you'll notice I get these additional options right here. If you hover on them, they'll tell you what they do. So the first one would get you the link to the file itself. Next up is where you could share the file. This is where we could preview it. We could remove it. And then we have more actions. And in these more actions, we're going to be able to open it with a particular app. We could add it to a workspace. We could show the location, add the shortcut, move, and you can read the rest. We'll go over each of these in just a moment. You can also get to these exact same menu options by right-clicking, and you'll see them in this list view this way. All right, so whether you want to select the file or folder and use these icons or click on the three dots and use this drop-down menu here, or if you prefer to just right-click on the file or folder, you will get the same options. Let's take a look at them. First up is simply preview. I can click and preview what that file will look like right from Drive itself. When I hit the back arrow, I come right back to where I was. Notice when I previewed, I wasn't in the editor, I couldn't make changes, I just got a quick snapshot of what it looked like. I could open it with Google Docs in this case, I could also print or download it right here as well. Next up, we have share. So when I click on share, I could share it with specific people by typing in their email addresses, and this will share it with that person. Currently, that person would be an editor, but I have the option of making them a viewer or a commenter in addition to the option of editor. To be a viewer means that they can see the document, comment, they can use suggestions or comments, and then editor allows them full editing rights to the document. If you want, you can notify them that you're sharing it with them and give them a message. One other thing that you can do is come to the settings in the upper right and decide whether you want editors to be able to change permissions and share, and viewers and commenters can also see the option to download, print, and copy. So you could make it so that viewers could not download, print, or copy if you wanted. I'm going to cancel this. Now that was for sharing to specific people and restricting the link to just those people who it's been explicitly shared with. Looking down below, you'll see Get Link, and it's currently restricted, so only people added can open with this link. But we could change that to the City School District of Albany. So when I click on this, it's now going to tell me that anyone in this group, so the group is the City School District of Albany, with this link, so that means they have to have the link, can view this document. Now, again, I could change it from viewer, commenter, or editor. Now, adults or staff members also would have the ability to go one step further, which is anyone with the link. I'm currently in a student account, so I'm unable to show you that option at the moment because students in our domain are not allowed to share with outside addresses. If you were to choose the anyone with a link option, that is helpful for parents and other folks that you may need to share documents with. But as students, they're unable to share outside of our domain. Again, right-clicking. I could go to, and if I go to Get Link, it's going to bring me to that same dialog box as the sharing just did. It just starts me down on the lower side of it. Next up is Add to Workspace. I could simply add this to one of my workspaces if I wanted to. I could also have it show me the file location, so it'll show me exactly where it is. This can be helpful, for example, if I were in, say, Recent, and I found that file and I wasn't sure where it was, I could right-click on it and then choose Show File Location, and it's actually going to bring me to the spot where it exists. And I think I may have two docs. Let me go to the one that we've been using. Show File Location, and here we are. I'll right-click. Notice also how after I changed the sharing permissions, I got that little icon to let me know that it's shared. Moving along, we have Add Shortcut to Drive. So if this was in a shared folder, or I'm sorry, if it was in the Shared with Me section, I could simply right-click, Add Shortcut to Drive, and then remember, I can put it exactly where I want it using these arrows. So I'm going to move it, in this case, to my emoji demo folder and add that shortcut. And now when I come to that emoji demo folder, the shortcut to that file exists. I'm going to come back to our practice area here. Right click on this full file again. Next up is Add to Starred. Remember, if I add something to Starred, it will now appear inside the starred section of my drive. I also get a little starred icon to let me know that this is in my starred section as well. Now the file itself is living in this subfolder, but I can access it via the starred section of Drive. Rename. If I want to rename it, I could just simply rename. View details will tell me two main things. It'll give me the details of the file itself, and it will also show me the activity. So if there have been multiple people working on it or opening and using it, it would give me that activity. If I do not need to see this, I can simply click the X. Also, those features can be accessed right here via this I where it says View Details. Next up, we have Make a Copy. So if I wanted to make a copy of this file, I would click Make a Copy. And it's going to automatically name it Copy of, and then put it in the same location. But then I could use the right click and rename to give it a new name if I wanted to. And then I can also, once I've done that, right click on it and move it to the location I wanted to move it to. So I could use move to. And again, I'm going to use these arrows. So I'm going to use that back arrow. I'll use this one. Let's put it in my emoji demo. I can say move, or if I wanted, I could even create a new folder in that emoji demo folder right from here. So I could click new folder, I'll call it new demo, and then click my check mark. It'll create the subfolder, and then choose move here, and it will move that file to that folder. And we can verify that by coming in emoji demo, going inside new demo, and there it is. Another way to move files is to simply drag them. So I could take this demo doc and just click and drag it to the folder that I want it to go to. And just like that, it will move it. You can also report abuse directly to Google. These would be the types of abuse that you could report. You can download the file, and if you download a doc, it will convert it to Word. If it's a sheet, it will convert it to Excel. If it's slides, it will convert it to PowerPoint. So it typically will try to find the Microsoft equivalent and convert them for you. And then lastly, you can remove the file from that section of your drive, and it's going to move it to your trash, which you could undo if you wanted. And when it goes into trash, remember, after 30 days, it will be deleted forever, but you do have the option to manually delete it forever when you'd like to, and you can also restore it to its previous location. So if I were to remove this by accident, and I miss my undo button, and say I hit the X, I could come to the trash, find that file, right-click on it, and restore, and it will bring it back to where it was. Now that you've seen the sections, features, and functions of Drive, I'd like to share the following tips with you. Organize your Drive with folders and subfolders, as we did in our examples. Use Control and click to select multiple files and or folders in order to drag them to another folder. Now remember, you could use Move To as well, or you can use the click and drag. But holding down Control will let you select multiple files or folders at the same time. Create new files from inside the folder you want to store them in. Remember, we talked about not going to docs.google.com or slides.google.com, but instead creating those types of files from within Drive inside the folder you wish them to be stored in. Color your folders and name the items strategically. Drive will automatically make a classroom folder for all of your Google classes and assignments, a Meet recordings folder for your Google Meet recordings, and a meeting reports folder for Google Meet activities. Star or color these folders so they're easy to find. Use search and advanced search to locate items in Drive. Create and use workspaces for collections of frequently used files, and use Add Shortcut to Drive or Add to Starred for items in Shared with Me that you know you're going to want to be able to easily access in the future. I hope that after watching this video, you feel like a more confident user of Google Drive and that you will be better able to organize your drive in the future. Thank you for watching.